In the heart of ancient Egypt, a kingdom built on gold and glory, Pharaoh sat upon his throne, a living god among men. His palace glittered, a testament to his absolute power, every corner reflecting the wealth of a mighty empire. It was into this world of opulence and arrogance that a man named Moses walked, a shepherd with a staff in his hand and a divine message on his lips. He spoke of freedom for his people, the Hebrews, who had toiled for generations under the Egyptian whip. He said, "Let my people go." Pharaoh, surrounded by his priests and nobles, merely laughed. The request was absurd, an insult to his authority. He looked at Moses, not as a messenger of a god, but as a foolish agitator. With a wave of his hand, he dismissed the plea, his face a mask of contempt and derision. The time for talk was over. The stage was set for a confrontation not between two men, but between the will of a king and the power of a god. The first sign was a terrifying spectacle. The Nile, the very lifeblood of Egypt, the source of its fertility and prosperity, turned to blood. The sacred river that watered the crops and sustained the people became a stinking, crimson torrent. Fish died, their silver bodies floating on the corrupted surface, and the water became undrinkable. Panic gripped the land. The people cried out, their thirst unquenchable, their livelihood threatened. Yet, Pharaoh's heart remained unmoved. His magicians, through their dark arts, managed a pale imitation of the miracle, and this was enough for the king. He saw it not as a divine warning, but as a challenge to his own power. He fortified his resolve, believing he could withstand this assault on his kingdom. But this was only the beginning. The sky, once a brilliant, endless blue, began to darken. A low hum grew into a deafening roar as a living cloud descended upon Egypt. It was a swarm of locusts, countless and ravenous, a moving carpet of destruction that blotted out the sun. They settled on every green thing, devouring the fields, the orchards, the gardens, leaving behind a barren, desolate landscape. The breadbaskets of the empire were emptied in a matter of hours. Famine was no longer a threat, it was a certainty. The cries of the people grew louder, a symphony of despair echoing through the once prosperous land. Despite the escalating suffering of his subjects, Pharaoh's defiance only grew. He would stand on the high balconies of his palace, looking out over his afflicted kingdom, and shake his fist at the heavens. He saw the plagues not as divine judgment, but as a personal attack, a cosmic battle of wills he was determined to win. His pride, as vast as the desert sands, would not allow him to yield. He saw submission as weakness, and Pharaoh, the Horus king, could never be weak. His heart, once perhaps capable of compassion, began to harden, turning to stone within his chest. He would summon Moses, promise to let the people go if the plague was lifted, only to break his word the moment relief came. This cycle of suffering, false repentance, and renewed defiance became the grim rhythm of life in Egypt. The contrast was stark and terrible. In the streets of Thebes and Memphis, there was chaos. People fought over the last scraps of food, their faces etched with hunger and fear. Sickness spread as the land festered under the weight of the plagues. Frogs swarmed from the polluted river, covering every surface, their croaking a maddening chorus. Then came gnats and swarms of flies that tormented man and beast. Livestock fell sick and died in the fields. Painful boils erupted on the skin of Egyptians, from the lowest servant to the highest court official. Hail, mixed with fire, rained down from the sky, a phenomenon never before seen, destroying what little the locusts had left. A profound darkness fell over the land for 3 days, a palpable, suffocating blackness that brought all activity to a halt and filled every heart with a primal dread. Through it all, the Hebrews in their designated lands were spared, a clear and constant sign that this was a targeted judgment. Yet, in his dimly lit chambers, insulated from the cries of his people, Pharaoh remained silent and stubborn. His world had shrunk to the confines of his own unyielding pride. The suffering outside his palace walls was a distant echo, a price he was willing to make his people pay for his own intransigence. He was a prisoner of his own ego, locked in a battle he could not win, yet refused to lose. Then came the warning of the final, most dreadful judgment. Moses stood before Pharaoh one last time, his face grim, his voice heavy with the weight of the message he carried. He spoke of a shadow that would pass through Egypt at midnight, a silent unseen force that would claim the firstborn son in every Egyptian household, from the heir of Pharaoh on his throne to the son of the lowliest servant. The only protection would be the blood of a lamb painted on the doorposts of the Hebrew homes, a sign for the angel of death to pass over. Pharaoh, in his arrogance, scoffed at the threat. He had endured so much. What was one more? He saw it as a desperate, final bluff. He ordered Moses out of his sight. threatening him with death if he ever dared to return. The final line had been drawn. That night, a chilling silence fell over the land, a silence filled with forebodings. Then, at midnight, a cry pierced the darkness. It was not one voice, but thousands, a great and terrible wail that rose from every corner of Egypt. The 10th plague had come to pass. In his grand palace, the golden walls now seemed like a tomb. Pharaoh, the god king, rushed to his son's chambers to find his heir, the future of his dynasty, lifeless. The invincible ruler was brought to his knees, not by an army or a political rival, but by a grief so profound it shattered his soul. He wept, his cries joining the chorus of his broken nation. The stone in Pharaoh's chest had finally crumbled. Broken and defeated, he summoned Moses and Aaron in the dead of night. There were no more negotiations, no more bargains. With a voice choked with sorrow, he begged them to take their people and go. The Hebrews, who had gathered and prepared in faith, began their great exodus, leaving the land of their bondage behind. But as the sun rose, and the initial shock of grief gave way to a familiar surge of anger and regret, Pharaoh's hardened heart made one last stand. Why had he let his entire slave workforce just walk away? Assembling what was left of his army, his elite charioteers, he thundered in pursuit. He cornered the Hebrews at the shores of the Red Sea, a seemingly inescapable trap. But then, the final, undeniable miracle occurred. The waters parted, creating a dry path through the heart of the sea. The Hebrews walked through, with walls of water towering on either side. Blinded by rage, Pharaoh ordered his army to follow. His chariots charged onto the seabed, convinced of their victory. But as the last of the Hebrews reached the opposite shore, the waters returned. The towering walls collapsed, and the Red Sea swallowed the might of the Egyptian army. Pharaoh, standing on the shore, could only watch in horror as his soldiers, his horses, and his chariots were consumed by the churning waves. His power, his army, his pride, all were washed away in an instant. The aftermath was a silent, desolate scene. The great king stood alone on the shore of the Red Sea, the waves depositing the wreckage of his once invincible army at his feet. His reign, which had begun in splendor, had ended in catastrophic failure. He had lost his son, his army, and his empire's future. He eventually wandered into the vast, empty desert, a man stripped of everything. The crown, the symbol of his divine authority, slipped from his head and fell into the sand, half buried and forgotten. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the dunes, it was not just the end of a day, but the end of an era. The lost empire of a king who defied a god became a whisper in the wind, a cautionary tale for all of history. He stood alone, a solitary figure against the fading light, the last tragic monarch of a dynasty brought to ruin by a single, hardened heart. Thank you for watching this story of power, pride, and consequence. If you found this journey into history compelling, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more epic tales, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.